To be in this morning, he called me, and so at least we'll have another one. We got 2 minutes anyhow. So.
Now live on YouTube.
Okay, we're live on YouTube.
Okay, good morning. So we're just going to wait for just 2 more minutes to see if we get a couple more people in. Mr. Gamble, good morning. And do we know who 893 is? 67. Might be news. Would that be right, Karen?
We didn't send the Zoom link to the media. We sent them a notice that it's on the city's YouTube channel.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I'm not sure who that would be.
Maybe it's Rod?
Maybe it's Rod. No, Rod's in another one.
Oh,
Nope, not me.
Mr. Doug Stevenson. Ms. Stickler.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
How you doing? Very
Morning.
bright and beautiful behind you there, Ryan. Looks nice.
Yeah, it's raining today. It's nice,
Oh.
though, eh?
Who knew?
Okay, everyone, we'll call the meeting to order and welcome on this last meeting of 2020. And we have at this point just a few we don't have in here, but hopefully they'll join before we get going too far. Do we have today any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? You're frozen. Councillor McCaw, are you there? Still there?
So we need to declare one in a couple of ways. So number 12, the Quintilicious Restaurant Promotional Update. And there was also a report by Manager Post. And I sent her a message yesterday about that report because I'd like to discuss some of the things on the report. But at the same time, there's something to do with this Quintilicious on the report that would put me in a pecuniary interest. So it was suggested by the clerk that we separate that particular item off of the report while discussing it.
That's right. So what we'll do is we'll take that item off separately, discuss the rest of the report. We'll come back to that item so that you can declare that interest and leave the meeting. Does that work for you, Councillor McCaw?
Yeah, that's fine. And also just, I don't know if you heard me or not, 12 is again the Quintilicious. So there are 2 items there that I need to declare. So
Okay, no
be clear,
problem.
okay?
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Minutes, November 18th, 2020. Can I get a motion to put these minutes on the floor? Councillor Kelly, seconder. Mr. Boyce, any questions or discussion on those minutes at all? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, no correspondence or deputations today. Retail retention strategy final version. Ms. Post, if you'd like to present that.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be good for the committee to have the final version with the edits that were made by the committee at the last meeting. So it's just a clean version of the strategy that was approved.
Okay, so just to note, no motions needed on this. Any discussion? Anyone want to make any more comments on this while it's there? Okay, well, thank you very much. You guys did a lot of busy work, and I think that's heading to council. Is that heading to council Monday, Manager Post, or another day?
Yes, on Monday.
On Monday, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, report ECDEV 2020-39, 2021 MAT expenditures. So as we've noted, we're going to take Quintilicious out of this discussion. We will add that to the end of the discussion when Ms. McCaw takes the leave. Go ahead, Manager Post.
Sure. So looking at the amount of funding we have in the municipal accommodation tax reserve fund right now, there's about $212,000 that has not been spoken for or earmarked for a project. You know, our thinking initially was that a lot of this, a lot of the projects that would use MAT funding might sort of lend themselves more toward the capital budget, but given the year that we're facing, given the challenges of the pandemic, given the situation many of our businesses in, we've come up with a bit of a different plan for our MAT expenses for this year, our MAT expenditures for this year. So of course, some of the projects that we've taken a look at and suggested, the tourism development plan, so taking an update on that, developing a bit of a marketing plan, updating the bus wraps that you see around town that have the visitor guide images from a few years ago. Adding a contract staff person for pop-ups. As you know, pop-ups are exceptionally time consuming for staff. And it would be great if we were able to find somebody who could come in, work on that project for the 5 months it's super active. The Choose Belleville marketing campaign that is in place now, we'd love to see that continue into 2021. So there's some funding in there for that. Some additional support for the farmers market is something that we see as key in 2021. We have been working with an e-commerce consultant for the last few months. He's been out helping businesses either establish an e-commerce platform or enhance the e-commerce platform that we have. And we think that's going to, the need for that is going to continue into 2021. So we'd love to have some funding out of MAT to support that project. And then we're recommending that 50,000 of what's existing in the reserve fund be put into a fund for future waterfront development. So we know there's lots of opportunity on our waterfront, particularly to drive some tourism investment and drive tourism traffic. And we'd love to see some of that money set aside for a project in the future that's going to need significant funding. So those were sort of the top ideas we had for using those funds. And we wanted to put them before the committee for their consideration, and then take the final list of projects to council for their review and approval.
Okay, thank you. So I think what we're going to do for this is have some discussion around the table, and then at the end we'll see if where a motion would sit on this to go forward. But I think it's just important for an item like this that we go around and just get inputs. Would anyone like to discuss this and have any comments on this? Catherine Brown, go ahead, please.
Thank you, just unmuting. So I had a good look at this. So to Ms. Post, thank you for getting a list together that enables us to start the conversation. When I looked at everything that was here, something had a bit of an aha moment last night that a large percentage of what's on this list is what I would refer to as being passive. It is often supports what we would sometimes refer to as marketing assets and marketing collateral. But what I don't see appearing in the list is, with the exception of Quinney, is something that is really active, that's going to draw people coming into it. And I'll give you an example. Updating the bus wraps assumes that the person is going to already be here to be able to see the bus wraps. So what is it that we're trying to draw them to and getting them here to Belleville so that they can take advantage of many of these assets? So the thing that was missing for me, and what I'd like to have the conversation about, is what are the active things that we are doing, like Quintilicious, like things that downtown, for instance, has been doing with pedicabs and Enchanted and our summer events with El Fresco. The other observation I just wanted to share is typically in the marketing world, and I've gone and conferred with people who are far smarter about marketing than I am, that typically you would take of your investments, 5 to 10% would be related to creating marketing collateral and marketing assets. And when I look at this list, the 210,000 that's recommended, 7% of it is focused on a tourism product, being the Quinney investment. But 93% of this budget is really focused on marketing and support systems. The e-commerce solution, for instance, extending it is support for the business, but it doesn't always necessarily drive tourism. Farmers market support, the Choose Belleville campaign, a good media program, by the way. I'm really liking where it's going, but again, it's passive. There's no way to actually be able to measure whether or not it's having a discernible difference in terms of what it is. So what I'm hoping our conversation today will allow us to do is, how do we switch that balance from 7% product and 93% supports into 93% supports, or products, I beg your pardon, 93% products and 7% really invested on the support, the assets, the collateral that we need to create.
Okay, if I can, those are great comments, Catherine. And normally, I think in a normal year, you would find a little different mix of projects for the municipal accommodation tax funding. We are very sensitive to the view of attracting folks to the region still, and we believe that that is still going to be a sensitive issue going into 2021. So you will see that there's more focus on things that local folks can take advantage of. You'll see that there's a lot of those kind of expenditures in the plan, just recognizing that this is a very different year than we've had in the past. Our focus is not to draw folks at this point from out of town. As things progress through 2021, of course, there will be additional funds added to the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve Fund. And we hope as things progress, we'll be able to bring things forward to the committee and to council to sort of add to this list as 2021 goes forward.
I appreciate where you're coming from in terms of, and I apologize, I'm in a mask. The people coming from away. But one of the things that I think we need to focus on, and I think Bay of Quinney Marketing has done a really good job of doing this over the course, is local tourism is as critical, as crucial as is come from away tourism. And again, all of these things being passive, that I guess I'm not convinced that we're going to be able to draw in even local tourism with the marketing assets. They're good support structures. But for instance, Quinnalicious is going to happen in Q1 of 2021. But what products are we going to invest in for Q2, 3, and 4? And I think it needs to be a balance of the two. Like I said, I think it's a good starting point in terms of the kinds of supports we're identifying we need. But I would like us to see us using our MAT dollars to actually be able to support the tourism products that are going to attract, whether it be local or from away, during and post-pandemic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have Councillor McCaw. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you. Just a couple of observations. Listening to Ms. Brown, I would tend to agree on the bus wraps. I think, and Ms. Post has sort of explained it as well, that we're really not looking to attract out-of-town people. But what I would rather do is not spend the money on something like that, keep it in our reserve. When we're able to market out of town, I would rather us take this money that you're proposing for the bus wraps and put it towards, say, something like Patterson billboard signs out of our area. So, for example, I'll just throw areas out there. And we saw it happen here as well. We had other municipalities actually advertising tourism to their city right in our city. So I'm suggesting we do the same. We go to other municipalities, not right now, obviously, because of the pandemic, but we contract these Patterson billboards out with a campaign about coming to Belleville. So I would rather take that 20,000, keep it in our reserve, and when we're quite able to do so, use it in that regard. So that would be my first thought on that. And And I mean, certainly it's sitting in the reserves. It's not going to go anywhere unless we choose that it does. The other thing I would suggest and say that currently I can't support contract pop-up staff on a contract. In discussions with Director Hines, and she had indicated this after the budget meeting of last week, that really we shouldn't be talking about any type of staff complements of any kind using MAT funds. You know, maybe in some other budget line, possibly, but definitely not MAT funds being used for a contract for staff, to hire staff. She just wasn't comfortable with that. And she actually said so after the meeting in a forum with several of us. And I think, I'm not sure if Councillor Kelly may have been there for that or not. I'll leave it up to him to I know he came in the room at some point after that, or maybe at the same time as, but that particular item I think needs to be removed, the contract pop-up staff, because I don't think it will get council support based on that alone, simply because MAT funds should not be used for staffing. So those are the two items that I had some opposition to. So anyway, I'll leave it up to other people to discuss, and I just wanted to voice my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for discussion?
Sure.
Ms. Raycroft, Mr. Gamble, and then Ms.
Thanks. So I think just to maybe echo both Catherine and Kelly through you, I have this vision that MAT is supposed to help us fund actual product, and then when we have something in place for people to come to, whether it's something like Quinney or Pedicab or an event that attracts people to use our resources like our hotels and our restaurants as a layered thing, or go to the pop-ups. If there's more infrastructure spending, that's probably, if it's better redirected towards that infrastructure. And as we try to look at things that attract people to, even if it's creating a pride of place for our local residents, you know, what makes people excited to be here when they can't go anywhere else? Is it something like Quinney? Is it something like Pedicabs? Is it something like the farmers market? I mean, that is an existing space. So if we can support the growth of that, is there infrastructure that's required? And I guess that's what seems to be missing from here, is whether or not there's infrastructure required for each of these things to make them better for our local residents or the people who would use those places. The tourist kiosk improvement, I think we talked a little bit about where that might go or what that might be. I'm not 100% sure what it entails here. I know that we're prepared to help assist with the pop-up to some degree. And if there, I mean, a 5-month contract at $20,000 seems an extremely well-paid position for what I'm not quite sure what it would entail. The bus wraps, again, is that just a throw it in the face of to our local people about what's cool here? I don't know. So I think I continue to say, if we can't spend money on infrastructure or product, then maybe it goes into a reserve.
Mr. Gamble.
Sorry, that took me forever to unmute. Thank you, Manager Post, for the report. It's great. I appreciate the clarity on the figures, and you put together a groundwork for a plan moving forward. I think there's a good strength in that plan, that it follows the strategic themes in the city's strategic plan. It's nice to see the portion of the plan dedicated to tourism touch on so many different sectors. I'm all very worthy of support. Up to us, obviously, to determine what we do with it. There's one sector, though, which I think is, glaringly omitted, perhaps, and I think it's worthy of consideration. And perhaps this puts me in a conflict. I don't know where it goes, but there's no real mention here of the accommodators. And we know MAT funds come solely from the clients of these accommodators. So I lean towards what Ms. Raycroft and Councillor McCall were saying that if we can't perhaps find a direct product, that a reserve is not such a bad thing. That maybe we consider an accommodator support reserve to go along with the one that I really appreciate, the waterfront development reserve. I think that's a great idea. So I don't want to be spending money just to spend money here and not following the real protocols of what I think the MAD is intended for.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly, and then we have Edge Boys.
Good morning, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Karen, Manager Post, for the report. Just thinking about it, I guess how successful have the events like Quinnelicious been, and what do we base that success on? And I'm just wondering about the bus wraps too, and the tourist kiosk improvements. What are those improvements? And you know, I know the kiosks this year, maybe with COVID's been not used as often as maybe previous years, but can you kind of just explain to me, Karen, or just a little review if you have any notes on the Quinnelicious?
So Councillor Kelly, just because of the abundance of caution for Councillor McCaw, who's in the room, we're going to save that to another discussion on Quinnelicious weekend. Okay. Yeah, but the other one's fair game.
Okay. Yeah. Could Manager Post just touch on the kiosk then for me?
For sure. So the tourism kiosks are something actually that we've had on the back burner for quite some time, and that is strategic areas of the city where we know tourists visit, places like Quinte Mall, Myers Pier, the Log Cabin, the Quinney Sports and Wellness Center, some of those key tourist areas. If you take a look at the sort of the structures that are there to provide visitor information to people coming into the community, they're actually really quite pathetic, I'll have to say. They're really not in good shape. There's nothing new. There's no good branding on them. There isn't anything that really catches a visitor's attention. So we'd love to see some new shelving, some new displays in those places to really sort of up the look of the city, attract the visitors' attention, as well as display our visitor materials and information in a way that you know, gets the attention of a visitor. So that's our plan with those kiosks, is really to develop some new creative ways to get our products into the hands of visitors.
And Manager Post, is that something that you work closely with the Quinney Regional Marketing Board?
Absolutely, and the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Yeah.
They're responsible for stocking those kinds of things with our visitor materials, but we always felt that it was our role at the city to actually put in place the things that we want stocked with materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Boyce.
Thank you. I first want to agree with Catherine Brown in terms of the ratio of marketing money versus events. And it's my hope and desire that we see the marketing not be in the 90% and more of turn it around and see the events and infrastructure. And I've got two questions. When we talk about 10,000 for the Market Square, and I know this was brought up earlier, I think by Jill, perhaps Karen can tell us if infrastructure is part of that $10,000. That's my first question to Karen.
Certainly, it's a good question. So our plan is to work with the vendors on the market, their association, to figure out what support they need. So whether they need some funding to help with events to draw more folks down to the Market Square. We did in 2020 upgrade the electricity in Market Square as a result of comments that we received from vendors downtown. Down in the market, and so really we're gonna work with them to figure out of their priority list which ones we will be able to support with this funding.
Okay, perfect. So it's more of a events, which I certainly would agree with the 10,000. And my next question is, and I know there was a lot of discussion at council, and there's been a lot of discussion around the city in terms of pop-ups. And perhaps, you know, expanding them from the current location to other places downtown, you know, and other places in the city. And I think the greatest failure that we could have is going forward and expanding, but without the necessary city staff that would be able to work closely. And I looked at the cost of the contract, and there are benefits. I mean, there are benefits to a contract, not having to hire the person full time and different things like that. But I want to know, and we've all had this discussion before numerous times about the lack of staffing in your department, and there's just so many things that you can actually do, without spreading yourself too thin and perhaps affecting the the effects of the events or whatever. And pop-ups to me are something that I think is a great idea. What would the person who would be hired as a contract position, and obviously it would be a trial contract depending on the success, whether or not they come back, but what would be some of the things that that person would be doing?
That's a great question. So the process for pop-ups is a very time-consuming one, and it's very time-consuming even before the pop-ups open. So there's the whole request for proposal process that happens early in the new year, where we put the word out that we're looking for businesses to submit proposals who may want to occupy one of the pop-ups. So there's that process. There's the review of all of those RFPs. There's the negotiation of the contracts with each of the successful vendors. There's the information that has to go forward to council for their approval. There is, of course, the physical work with the pop-ups. So council did approve some capital budget money for us to acquire at least 2 new pop-ups, as well as modify the existing pop-ups in accordance with the direction from the health unit and the fire prevention folks. So this individual will be working on that, looking after all of that. There's all of the marketing of the pop-ups, the advertising, the liaison with all of the vendors. This year, ensuring the sort of visitor services pop-up is staffed and so on. It's a very time-consuming process. I would say that last year, I don't hesitate to say that it was 5 months of full-time work for our staff person, where there was not time to work on anything else. And that was just around those core months of the pop-ups being open. So that's what we see this contract person managing.
Okay, excellent. I personally will support that when it comes time for our committee to discuss what should stay and what should open, just because I know that the greatest fear I have is, based on last year's success of the pop-ups, that we spread your department so thin that we don't see that necessary success and we're not able to expand. And I think everybody I've talked to in the city loved the idea. So that's something that I hate spending money, on personnel unless I feel it's needed. And this one I certainly will support.
Thank you. Before we go to Councilor McCaw, again, I had Carla Brennan. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken once yet? And Ms. Carrier, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to say thanks for the report, Karen. My only concern is that, based on what I've seen, is that if we were to recommend any or all of these, there isn't enough details or specifics for council to support it and approve it. That's where we get stuck every time in the process. So I think we're asking those questions right now, but I think it requires a lot more time on each thing, like, the tourist kiosk improvements for $5,000. What does that $5,000, like, how is that being spent? E-commerce support, $30,000. Like, I don't fully understand how you're spending $30,000, so I don't know how to support it and then recommend it. And then I think even if we get to that point, it's not going to get passed when it gets to council. That's what my concern is.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else for first time around? Oh, sorry, Ms. Courier, go ahead.
I just wanted to, first of all, support some of the other people that have spoken and then put a little bit of flesh on that. So to me, when I saw this, it was very obvious to me that it was unbalanced. It's marketing dollars rather than product development. And that was my understanding, that that's what Matt Tax was birthed for. So even if we can't meet the 5 to 10% that's sort of the norm in the marketing industry, if we could get it closer to 60-40 or 70-30, it's always easy to spend marketing dollars. You give a marketing person $100,000, they'll spend it. You give them $10, they'll spend it. It's just that it's easy to do that, but product development is much more difficult. And I see the money that's being used to market as something that needs to be flipped, as everybody else has said, especially because, and I think we can rationalize the different ratio, 60-40 as opposed to 10 or 20%, because we're dealing with COVID, and because, and I know this from firsthand experience at being here for 2 years, that the local community doesn't have a good sense of what we are as a tourism product locally. So Doug and his team have certainly made huge strides towards putting us on the map outside of Quinney and inside. We actually now have a brand, but I think there's work to be done to convert the naysayers, I guess. And then the other thing, I think the whole contract pop-up stuff is a completely different issue and should not be supported by Matt. I watched Anne last year work through the pop-up project. Mind you, it was really the first year that it went full bore, and that was a full-time job. But I don't think it should be supported by Matt Tax. I think that should be, if the city's going to have pop-ups, then they need to, I don't know, maybe find money somewhere else to support that long term.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stevenson.
I'm actually going to turn my camera off. You know, I'm in Quinney West. We don't have the same internet that you have in the big city of Belleville. And also just need a disclaimer, I got a little guy in the background who wants a sandwich and he will not let me go. So you might hear sandwich requests. I want to say firstly that I think Karen's probably being kind because she doesn't want to throw anybody under the bus with respect to product development. Unfortunately, right now, we're partnered with the city on the development of a product development strategy. And RTO 9 offered to pay for phase 1 of that, but I'll say they're really dragging their heels on it. So I know that's holding Karen back with respect to what she can actually build out for product development. And partly that's on our side too. So I think we will be seeing a lot more come out of product development with this MAT fund. We're just, I know that from discussions I've had with Karen, she doesn't want to get moving on anything too quickly before we have this strategy in place. In terms of some of the spending on this budget, I see some great stuff. Some of it sure might seem like, well, this doesn't make sense, or we could be spending money better elsewhere. But I know that, you know, cities looking at it the same way we're kind of looking at our MAP funds. Let's remember, we haven't even had a year of these things. We're just getting this together. And it's kind of like we're one of those families who won the lottery. We got $30 million, you know, but we're still driving a Mercury Topaz from 1998. Let's get a new Mercury Topaz. And then let's start thinking about the house and the property, right? I think this full brand approach, especially now that it seems like you're going with Choose Belleville, is really important. And some of these smaller spends, even though they feel like they might not make sense, is part of a full package and part of the visitor experience when people are here, to ensure that they're seeing consistent things, to ensure that they're not showing up to a visitor kiosk that looks, you know, pretty run down. And I know the other thing too is we're getting into our new strategy with our first full year of municipal accommodation tax funds, as is the city. And one of the things that Karen and I have discussed, which again, you know, could be partly on me, is in early 2021, how do we connect our two strategies? how do we ensure that all this money that is coming to Bay Quinney Regional Marketing Board is not conflicting with the money that's going to the city? So I see a lot of this budget as filling some initial gaps that the city's seen vacant for a long time, and room to build, and hopefully room to be able to partner together, and also, again, loop in, to Catherine and Mary Jo's point, loop in the downtown district, because what a strong product we got there that we want to continue to support, and also figure out other ways that we can be supporting the local stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've gone around once, and thanks for all the comments. What I'm hearing right now is some staff will still need to do a little bit of work, save and accept the Quinnalicious, which we'll talk about in a separate item. Is that, if I can just get everyone feels that that'll be fine, that we get that to staff and they come back with it? Does anyone disagree with that? Okay. Councillor McCaw?
I'm not to say that I'm disagreeing with it, but I think we need to have a further conversation. More so, I'll just bring this up based on Edge Boyce's comments. It's not to say that maybe staff isn't needed for pop-up shops. What I'm trying to say is that our director of finance has indicated that it should not come from MAT funds, but possibly somewhere else. So it's not to say that it's not required, but I think maybe pieces of the information that need to be brought forward to council is who's measuring the success of the pop-ups to warrant actually having a contract position for $50,000. We certainly need to be able to back up support for that person if that's what we choose. But I don't think it belongs on this particular, I don't know. I don't think it belongs here because it really isn't MAT related. MAT cannot fund it. The director of finance has said that MAT funding should not be funding any type of staff positions. So not to suggest it shouldn't exist, but it should not exist on this document is what I'm suggesting. If we want it to pass council, we need to be clear on that. We also need to be able to show support that the success of the pop-ups is measuring enough to actually warrant that position. So those are a few of the suggestions I could make as we move forward and try to introduce this to council, because the idea is if you want to go to council, you want it to pass. And it's pointless that we all sit here if it's not going to pass.
Thank you. Mr. Boyce?
Thank you. Just a quick response. I think it's more palatable when you can prove to council that, a staff actually, that staff position actually needs to be funded. And I understand that the only other way to do it is for it to come directly to council as an additional staff member, whether it be contract or permanent or part-time. But the best way to sell it is that if we were to, and I want to ask Rod on because it surprises me that we wouldn't be able to fund it this way. So I'm surprised to hear that Carol Hines would say that. And I want to know why it wouldn't be the best idea to prove to council by through this way, council could see that it's actually working or it's not working. And then I think they'd be more accepting of the position rather than simply putting it on the operations budget and asking for a staff. So I want to hear from Rod why MAT under the mandate, why we can't hire someone, or why we can't recommend it to council that the money comes.
Mr. Bove.
Good morning, everyone. I don't think we should characterize it as it can't be done. I think Director Hines is simply following a directive that municipalities get from the province on a lot of grant funding that you don't want to use it for operating issues, because if the funding goes away for whatever reason, you're stuck with a hole in your operating budget. So the casino revenue, for instance, when we were discussing that with the province, the direction was you're strongly encouraged not to use any of that money for operating issues. And it's the same thing with the MAT tax. So it's not that it can't be done. It's just that it shouldn't be done on a permanent basis, which gets you to, I think, what Edge was speaking to was we're kind of in this never-ending loop of the pop-ups being in some form of a pilot. Have we justified it enough that the position should be in the operating budget on a permanent basis? If council doesn't think it has, then certainly using the MAT on a one-year basis is a way to get you through 2021. And if the pop-ups are as successful next year as they were this year, then I think the case can be made that it should be a permanent addition to the operating budget.
Yeah. And that's,
go ahead, Edge.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's being put in by Karen as a contract position, because I understand that, you don't want to make it a permanent position, then find out that the necessity for it doesn't exist. We have the money, and I certainly agree with many that have said, let's put some of the money away and bank it for when we're able to do more events and things. But this is something that I think that, and I'm glad to hear from Rod that echoed what I felt, that, it's not that we can't do it, but when there comes time for it to be a permanent position, we certainly don't want to rely on money that we're not necessarily always going to have. Just my 2 cents.
If I can just clarify that we have talked with finance about staffing, and I think the direction from finance was that certainly permanent staffing should not be funded from reserves or funded from accounts where the revenue is not guaranteed. So, you never know what might happen with OLG funding. You don't know from year to year for sure what you're going to get in MAT funding. So the direction was not to certainly staff permanent positions with those funds. We felt this was appropriate for MAT funding because it was just a contract. So if, for example, MAT funds weren't available in 2022, it's not like we have a staff person on the payroll that we then have to lay off or find other work for. Simply if there's no funding in 2022, there's no new contract in 2022. So we felt that addressed the finance issue.
Okay, so I think staff, I think there's a little bit more work to do. I know that our next meeting is until January 28th, though. Is that too long, or is that going to be okay to bring another version back to this committee to approve? I mean, that wouldn't bring it to council till February, but do you find that that's enough time, or do you want something today?
I certainly understand the committee looking for additional information, and we're happy to provide a fleshed out version of this budget for sure with a lot more detail. I don't see any issue with waiting until the 28th. We could always circulate something in advance, even if the committee would like to take some more time to look at it before the next EDDC meeting. But really, it's up to the chair, whatever you prefer.
Well, I think if the more information, as I've heard around the room, is better. I specifically would like to see things attached to the strategic plan or the COVID recovery plan as well. I think that's very important that we're looking at those kind of initiatives. And it's been stated around the table, as long as we can connect those to some product development or and it's been said on other sides that really helps probably through the COVID recovery. I think that's what I'm hearing is going to make sense. So does everyone nod their head? Does that make sense for everyone? Okay, great. So I'm going to have a motion, if I can, from someone to table this to the next meeting. Councillor Kelly and Councillor McCaw. No discussion on a tabling motion, and vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, and I'm sorry, just to make that, Mr. Clerk, for the notes, that was save and except for Quinney, which will come up and speak in a minute. So actually, I'm going to move that item just ahead, just because we're on that. Councillor McCaw, I guess we'll get you out of the lobby, and we'll talk about Quinney. Okay, so Manager Post, go ahead for Quinney.
Yeah, so staff have been working on the sort of the meat of the Quintalicious plan. So it would be, as we had discussed, a fixed price menu proposal running from beginning of February till the middle of March. And we're doing that as support to our local restaurant sector. We think it's very important. We think that timing is key. We are working with the BDIA to make sure that this program complements what they're doing around their winter event. And we're able to, thanks to the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, they're contributing an additional $10,000. So we think between the funding the city could provide, the funding provided by the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, we could really put a program in place that will have a significant impact on our restaurants at a time when they are typically very slow. And we think in 2021, there's the opportunity for it to be exceptionally slow. So we think this could help preserve some of our businesses.
Okay. Well, before we discuss, I'm just going to have a motion to put this on the floor. This was for, now Karen, just before I do that, we already have a motion going to council for the restaurant. Is that on Monday's agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it
So
is
we don't need, this is just information today, correct? We've already had motions go to council with a budget, correct?
Yes, we do have it going forward to council. It might be helpful if the committee is supporting it to be able to say to council, this has been reviewed and approved by the committee as well.
Okay, so then what I'll do is have a motion come on the floor for discussion today then, so we have that. Can we get a motion to approve the Quintalicious spend, Blair Gamble and secondly by Edge Boyce, and discussion? Any discussion at all? Okay, I'll just say I think it's to be great to see this come to council on Monday. We've talked about it several times. And as we've heard in the past from restaurateurs, this is one of the hardest hit sectors and it continue to be and will be. And it's good to see that that's going to be in council on Monday. Okay, no more discussion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll get Councilor McCaw back first. There she is. All right. So next, Karen, we have job fair updates.
Yeah, so just wanted to provide the committee with an update. Staff are working with the City of Quinte West, as we always do on our job fairs. We have set up another one. It will be, again, a virtual job fair for February 4th. The challenge we had with the last and the first virtual job fair was getting job seekers comfortable with the format and the platform and get them engaged with the employers. So this time around with the job fair, we're working with our partners at Employment Ontario, so the Career Edge, Meta, and Loyalist Employment Service agencies locally. And they're going to take a much stronger role in presenting the opportunity to the clients that they deal with, and two, helping those who have a barrier to participating on the online platform, helping them access sort of the tablet, the laptop, the phone, whatever it is they might need to participate in the job fair. And they're also going to provide some training for folks who aren't familiar with the platform, so that come job fair day, they'll be comfortable enough to come in to the platform, sit down, talk with some employers, and hopefully secure employment as a result. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes for that February 4th job fair, hoping that we'll get a much better turnout of job seekers. Last job fair, we had over 30 employers, which was great. But we had, I'm going to say, just under 100 job seekers come through that platform. So feedback from the employers was they loved the platform. It worked really well for them. They just wanted to see more job seekers. So we're working on that now.
Any questions from the committee at all? Okay, thank you. Zwick's Puck-Up capital budget upgrade.
Just to let the committee know that during the capital budget deliberation, City Council approved an additional $50,000 capital budget for pop-ups. So that will allow us to purchase 2 additional pop-ups and modify the existing pop-ups to meet the health unit and fire department requirements. So we're happy to have that. And actually, we're already working on that for 2021.
Okay. Any questions on that at all to staff?
Oh.
Mr. Boyce.
Ryan, can I just go back and I had a question for Karen. She mentioned that there was 30, I think it was 30 businesses and 100 people. And I think it's important that because when people, you know, are saying, are there jobs out there? Of those 30 businesses, how many people were they how many positions were they looking to fill?
So right now, we're aware of more than 1,000 positions in the city of Belleville that are going vacant every day. It's
Yeah,
the biggest
absolutely.
issue. Yeah, it's the biggest issue we hear from employers, particularly in the manufacturing sector, but not just them. You know, we talked with one business a couple of weeks ago, and they are 160 people short every single day, and it's having a dramatic impact on their operation. So for us, the biggest thing we're working on is trying to make a match between folks who are looking for work and employers who are in desperate need of employees.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I hope the media picks up on that. I know there's been some discussion about, you know, how we're faring during the pandemic. Are there jobs out there? A lot of people were on CERB, we're on different things, but there are the jobs out there. And to hear that just 30 businesses or something, there was like 1,000 job positions and 100 people attended. Where the jobs are available in Belleville, it's just a matter of people going out and getting them.
That's right. Yeah, they're definitely there. They're easy to find. If anybody is looking for work, simply connecting with our Employment Ontario partners. They've got lists of all the jobs that are available. People can send their resumes to us for our Work in Belleville program as well. They can look on the quintycareerfair.ca website and see a list of the employers who attended the last career fair and what positions are available. So there's lots of ways for people to access those jobs that are needing to be filled.
Thanks, Karen.
Maybe a question for Mr. Stevenson. Years ago in Bay Quinney, we had initiated a QuinneyJobs.ca trying to find people from Toronto who want to move out because we have jobs available. Has that been something, and if Mr. Stevenson's away, maybe Councillor Kelly and Bay Quinney Regional Marketing Board. Oh, you're there, good.
Yeah.
Is that something that the Bay Quinney Regional
Marketing
Marketing Board is still working on?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, we get terrific traction on QuinneyJobs.ca. And you wouldn't believe, especially within the last, I'd say, calendar year, 12-month period, the shift that we've seen on international activity on QuinneyJobs.ca. You know, it used to be that, 60% of the Google Analytics would reflect the Canadian audience. It might be like 20% from Canada now. There's a huge percentage from India and a lot of other international locations. And I don't know if that corresponds specifically to Loyalist. I actually had a discussion with Jim Whiteway once when we started to see the shift. And he told me that a lot of the communities that he's done international work with are the communities and countries that we're seeing increases on. So yeah, I think it's still a strong tool.
Okay, great. And are there other resources you need for that too? I mean, that's a massive number. If we have all these vacancies, do we need to find more ways to put more resources into that?
Well, I think it's things like, you and I have talked about in the past, getting a bit more creative with the approach, like reverse job fair, that sort of thing, which were ideas we were seriously discussing going into this fiscal year beginning in April, but then obviously haven't worked just because of the nature of the pandemic. But I would say now that we are in a position, again, like the city, to have a decent flood of MAT funds coming in. For us, what that does is it opens up more per capita funds for that resident attraction and jobs piece. So yeah, that's a good question. I think we probably have what we need. It's just a matter of sitting down again and figuring out what those wants are from the community. But that was something that we had on the list to do and didn't happen because of COVID.
Okay. And Mr. King, is the same thing that we're finding that we need to put some more resources into finding to fill those vacancies for employers and manufacturers?
Absolutely. We had a meeting of our Quinney Manufacturing Association steering committee about a couple weeks ago, and that's a top issue that they all discuss. So yeah, it's not going away. It's getting worse. We hear from employers on a regular basis that they're, just as Karen Post said, that they're short. We're receiving some funding to be announced yet, but we're going to have some funding for our Proudly Made in Bay Quinney program, which is, celebrates all the great things made in the region. But part of the funding will allow us to promote specific jobs in the manufacturing sector and really advertise companies that are hiring right now and what the companies do, the products they make, and the positions they're trying to hire for. So I think, this is a multi-pronged strategy. Yeah, we need to bring folks from outside the region to come in to fill jobs, but there's still a lot of people in the community that are not connected into the workforce or into full-time employment or into in the sectors that we focus on in my office with manufacturing. So we're going to have some dollars to help promote specific manufacturing jobs. So not just, hey, here's a career in manufacturing, but here's a specific job that's available right now. So we'll have some dollars to do that on a short-term project basis, and we're also securing some more longer-term funding, multi-year funding to make that go. So yeah, it's definitely needed, and it's probably one of the top issues that we hear about. We're also through our Elevate Plus program, as you know, training people to get into the workforce, but we also have dollars to support the existing manufacturing workforce to upgrade their skills. So as they put technology in place and add robotics and automation and different systems in, there's some dollars there to support companies that need to upgrade their workforce. So if everyone moves up the value chain, that's also a good thing as well. So yeah, it's lots of moving parts to it. And I know Brad has his hands up because Brad.
Yeah, I know, Mr. Labadie, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Just yesterday on some of the things that he's working on. So a lot of synergies and linkages between all these aspects. So I'll leave it there.
Okay. Mr. Labadie, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I thank you for, I was going to provide a little bit of an update later, but this is a perfect timing to talk about a couple things. I did not provide Karen an update because some of these things are in the works. This is the best way I can put it. There is a website you'll see me starting to promote out, which is Edge Factor. Edge Factor's community on a hub, which we have in place. And that right now focuses on 4 industry areas: manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, tourism, and construction. So, because there are thousands of jobs in this area, as Karen has alluded to. The second part of this is we're in the midst of putting in a funding application. I've been given the go-ahead to put in for a labor market partnership fund to develop what we call a local job board system. It's been developed of Workforce Windsor Essex as our sister board. We have about 8 or 10 boards in the province currently using it. It is an awesome system. I would encourage you, because I will be reaching to my economic development partners to partner with me on this. Won't have to be putting money in, but I do want your thoughts and input as we develop this. If you would take the time to go to the Peterborough, where it's Workforce Development Board in Peterborough, which is udb.ca, the first thing you're going to see is 4 little squares on their main page: eye on the labor market, regional job map, regional job listings, things like this. And this is what we are going to be looking to implement here. What you're seeing there is only 4 of the tools, plus we're also looking to develop a whole new piece for local businesses as well, that they will have access to for free, which will help them in understanding how best to market their occupations. There's a bunch of things that we're going to be developing on that. So that is expected, that we can try and get that in place by I'm going to say March to April of next year if it gets approved, but I expect we will see approval on that. So it's a very unique tool because the software behind it will scrub this area locally. One of the issues you have is where do people go to really find all the jobs, because they're posted everywhere. Indeed is not the only source. You know, there's a variety of spots, and so this will help showcase that. But it also provides a job map, so when people look at job A, they can look on a map and exactly where that job is, relationship to where they live or services and things like that. So that's coming. We also have regionally across all of Eastern Ontario, we have the Labor Market Information Help Desk, which the Peterborough Board is leading as a project proposal. Peterborough and Ottawa already do it. The province wants us to institute it within all of our board areas. So this is going to help, whether it's economic development or businesses, when they need labor market information quickly. It'll be instituted here, hopefully within the early of the new year. And we'll have a staff person assigned just to that, and they can answer your LMI questions. That's where I'm sort of at with a couple of things right now.
Okay, thank you. And so, and maybe just to Mr. King, do you see this being coordinated through a QEDC effort and, you know, with other partners going forward, or just, I guess you said there's ongoing discussions. So is that kind of where it's being coordinated from, just trying to alleviate some of this?
Yeah, certainly QEDC, it will play a big role in this. And I think, you know, there's different aspects to it. So our focus with Quinney Economic Development, as you know, is the kind of the industrial side, manufacturing, food processing, logistics, technology, and that's where we focus our efforts on. But there's a lot of other sectors in the economy. So Brad alluded to, you know, healthcare, and I know there's some talk about construction and others. So there could be, you know, different organizations will take a piece of it, but we certainly are going to take a leadership role in those sectors that we work in. Again, the industrial technology side of the house. And like I say, we got some dollars. We can't tell you all about them because they haven't been formally announced yet, but they're coming to help us promote those positions in the manufacturing sector.
Yeah, Doug here. Just to Chris's point, Ruth Estwick isn't on the call, but I know she'd want the group to know that she's been a big part of these discussions too, just because obviously that skilled trade sector is a big piece of the pie.
Okay, and Ms. Raycroft, any comment on that from, you must see some of that from your partners?
All the time. And so for sure, in fact, I had a question the other day from someone asking if we knew of a place a doctor's wife was, or a physician's spouse was coming into the area and looking for a spot. Interestingly enough, when I went on to the bayofquinney.ca site looking for that jobs piece, it redirected to QEDC, which, but that's okay, I get it, and it's fine. So I'm just wondering if maybe we have an opportunity from the chamber side of things to link over to the Bay of Quinny /jobs. And because I know it's been a really active site and it's been great. It's been a great resource in the past, and it's someplace where I direct our employers from the chamber side of things to go. And again, it's not everyone, but it's a representative sample. And then we could also probably incorporate a bit of this into the Discover Belleville piece, because as much as we're using it to have locals explore their own backyard, we know that people are coming to the area and they're seeking an opportunity to live here. So if we can capture them in that space and give them the sense that this is a great place for younger people to work and not just people to retire, that's an opportunity we should try to seize to kind of create that demographic shift we talked about during strategic planning. So concur all the way, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Well, it seems like, yeah, there's a big need. There's a lot of people working on different things. My question would just be whether we needed a coordinated strategy. And I'm not sure if the city would be the one to lead that, but I guess maybe we can leave that for discussion and see if that's something that can be brought back. I'm sure, I know, Doug, we've talked about it for years in Bay of Quinny. I know Quinney Economic Development, we've discussed it. You're saying, Jill, you have, and Mr. Laverty's dealing with a lot of different things. So we'll just have to figure out somehow there's a coordination there, but I don't think we have that today. Okay, thank you very much. Karen, we have Discover Belleville Visitor Guide Update.
Yeah, I'm going to refer this to Alicia, and she's going to give you updates on items 11, 12, and 13 on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So for Discover Belleville, I just wanted to update the committee in terms of the direction we're taking it this year. Basically, when it comes to the print guide, we're going to be keeping the content pretty general based on the fact that we don't know what the pandemic's going to look like in 2021. So for example, in past years, we would include specific dates for events. We'll be having 2 or 3 pages capturing the types of events you can explore here, but then directing people to Discover Belleville. So I think in 2019, we launched Visit Belleville. Last year, there was a rebrand to Discover Belleville with a new layout for the website. And so I think our focus will be continuing to invest in the content on that website and making sure it remains strong and having more of a focus online. We're also going to be significantly decreasing our distribution of the printed guides. So typically on average, we print 15,000 guides annually. This year we'll be looking at printing 5,000, primarily because of the pandemic, but that's the direction we were going. Even pre-pandemic, people are utilizing or finding that information more on their mobiles rather than picking up the hard copies. So just a redirect for that, but still printing a new guide for 2021. We'll be looking at publishing it in March.
Okay, any questions at all? Ms. Raycroft.
If you don't mind, I might just add that forms part of the contract that we hold with the city with regard to visitor services, and we're responsible for the distribution and the cost of printing. So what we ended up with this year was a very active approach with trying to get guides to different locations, and with visitor services offices closed across the province, many of our usual recipients weren't accepting them. We've done further outreach. We tried to get to all the Airbnbs. We tried to reach out. We got kind of cut off from that opportunity. We also reached out even to the schools to ask them if they wanted copies of this so that they could use it as a teaching tool. So we've been very creative with trying to distribute the guides that we have left. But to Alicia's point, that's part of the reason that we've decided to go down to a much lower print amount from that perspective. The other side of that is it will give us a little bit of money in the budget. So to Karen's point, if we have a tourist kiosk, we may be able to redirect some of that to staffing.
Okay. Great. Any other comments? No, go ahead, Alicia. Second one.
So for Quintilicious, the restaurant promotion, I think we've talked in pretty good detail about that. There's a report going to council on Monday that would request a $15,000 budget through the MAT reserve and an additional $10,000 coming from Bay of Quinte. So we're looking at a $25,000 event to organize and promote a Quintilicious for Belleville from February 1st to March 14th. And that will be in alignment with the Savor the Chill theme that the downtown is focusing on for the winter. As well, and I was going to mention it in the grant piece or the funding updates, but we are the Reconnect grant from the Ministry of Tourism has moved forward their deadline to December 22nd. And they've also, in the original application, it was required for your budget to be a minimum $50,000. So they've opened that up so that budget amount is no longer in place. So I think they were finding they weren't seeing the applications they were hoping for. So we will be putting in an application from the city. If assuming our report gets approved and supported by council on Monday, we'll be submitting an application through the Reconnect program with the ministry to try to bring in an additional attraction downtown that would provide a greater draw during that winter season and benefit restaurants, but other businesses as well.
Great. Any questions at all? Okay. Thank you very much. And Choose Belleville.
Choose Belleville. So I sent a detailed update to the committee. So just wanted to say that the response has been very positive. The intention with doing this campaign was to put a twist on Shop Local, do something that was a little bit more unique because there are a lot of those shop local messages out there right now. So I'm quite excited with the outcome of it. I think we really wanted to focus in on the people behind the businesses here. So it was an exciting opportunity to, we had the budget to capture 10 businesses that represented a number of different sectors in the community and really put a face behind the business and capture the locals' attention that there are people that you are supporting, there's families you're supporting by choosing Belleville. I also think there's an opportunity with this campaign to broaden its use. So we have a landing page that people will be directed to that highlights what businesses are doing to keep you safe and why you can continue to support them in a number of different ways. So we'll be able to measure the success of the campaign based on promoting that page, choosebelleville.ca. And I think there could be opportunities to broaden the use of that Choose Belleville message when it comes to both economic development and tourism.
Okay, great. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Alicia. Funding updates, Karen, for RED and Marketing Board grants.
Yeah, so the committee may be aware there's been a kind of a long time fund from the province of Ontario called we call it the RED Fund, or the Rural Economic Development Fund. It's had various iterations over the years, and they've come out, I guess, with a sort of a new intake, which is similar to previous intakes, but a little bit different this time. So it typically funds economic development related projects, kind of a broad spectrum of rural initiatives. So we're looking at that fund. We've received some information from the province. We're looking for some more. We just wanted to let the committee know that we are very aware the fund is out there, and we're going to be working with our partners, working with our finance group to figure out sort of what the best, highest impact application we could make to that program will be. And I think the deadline is end of January for this intake, is it? I can't remember. Anyway, it's coming up pretty quickly. So we're going to be submitting an application for a project. We haven't quite determined what that will be, but we're hoping to get, if possible, 50% dollars out of the RED program. So just wanted to make sure the committee was aware of that.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Labadie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen, was there any consideration about the rural action strategy that was RED funded, which the city put funding into, and that we then put out and released? Is there any consideration, maybe looking at some of the suggestions that came out of that as part of this RED funding application? Because O'Mafford did come back to me and remind me that this was open now. And they did indicate they wanted to do a second step with us on that, but off that, I haven't had a chance to touch on that yet.
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. We will add that to the list. There's no shortage of projects that we'd like to apply for funding for, so we'll definitely consider that one as well.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, Karen, that was it for funding. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll finish with partner updates from our partner organizations. We'll start with Jill Raycroft of the Chamber of Commerce.
I can unmute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I guess from a couple of perspectives on the visitor services and city event side, we did have that drive-by Santa celebration that was hugely effective, I guess, in drawing people out. It did cause a bit of a traffic gridlock in the city, and looking back, I don't know that we could have done anything to change that. Let's just hope we never have to do it again. And we can have a regular Santa Claus parade. For those who did have the opportunity to enjoy it, we got rave reviews. For those who got stuck in traffic and weren't able to, it was unfortunate, and certainly, but by the time volunteers had been sitting outside for 6 hours, we felt that a 3-hour display was probably sufficient. So we are looking, and we've had a conversation with Alicia a little bit about the winter event that we would typically hold. We're looking at how we can add a family-focused layer to Quinnalicious. This may involve an at-home crafting session. It might be cozy kitchens. It might be, cozy crafting, whatever that is, that will give families an opportunity. We are even talking about maybe having it extend over the course of a series of weekends, kind of to layer or pair up with what's happening with Quinnalicious in the same timeline. And again, just something to say that we're doing something in Belleville, and and we're doing something for the people who live here. The visitor guide, as Alicia said, is certainly a big part of our work right now. But the other thing we've done is the Home for the Holidays tour or the decorating contest. So that was, again, another layered initiative to Festival of Lights, where we've had homeowners register their houses for participation in a contest that the city of Belleville has supported fantastically. So they'll be providing the prize money in partnership with both Habitat for Humanity and the Children's Safety Village, who have helped us with a lot of the administrative work, and Crime Stoppers, who came in with the $500 People's Choice prize money. They've all agreed to help us with our voting, and the plan right now, just to step back, we had about 30 or 40 registrations with the individuals saying they wanted their house kind of registered onto a map. The city then helped us get the maps ready for Google. So they're Google Maps, so you can link onto that and then just follow them around. Then we expanded that to a Nominate Your Neighbors campaign. So for people who may or may not have realized there was a contest in play, but other people who have noticed that a display was effective or particularly special, we had another whole series of people nominated from that perspective. So now we have a fairly expansive map or series of maps that take people throughout the city where they can enjoy a Home for the Holidays tour, so to speak. So again, just something to add to that, making our area, just by what people are doing on their own, a special place to be. So that has also driven a lot of traffic to our discoverbelleville.ca social media, or Discover Belleville social media, particularly through Instagram and Facebook, and people are picking it up on it. We've had over 3,000, I think, views on the map alone. So it's been a neat way to leverage that new brand and try to keep people engaged. From the chamber side of things, I think you all know that we're dealing with recovery through the pandemic, a lot of concern about whether or not we are going to go into a red zone. We continue to host webinars with relevant partners who can help our members and any businesses, for that matter, trying to figure out their way navigate through this pandemic. We had a great conversation. We've developed a good partnership with the health unit, who are completely prepared to try and get their message out through us. We feel that that's been helping significantly. I don't know if there are any questions about some of the things we've been doing. We'll be launching a bit of a shop local again, campaign video type thing, just to support again the idea that our local businesses need our help. And it's being done very well on every level. I mean, the downtown hasn't stopped, and the Choose Belleville campaign is really helpful. And then it's just one more piece, just because we should be doing something like that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Raycroft? Okay, thank you. Mr. King, QEDC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few updates from QEDC. Obviously, Quinney Economic Development Commission's role is kind of twofold. One's investment attraction, the other is retaining and support those industry and those target sectors. On the investment attraction side, we have a number of inquiries that are we call our sales funnel that we manage through our CRM. So some are at the early stages, just getting started. Others are really close and getting close to maybe some announcements moving forward. So lots of good activity of companies in those target sectors that we work on looking to come into the region. On the retention side, again, a lot of great, exciting plans from many of our manufacturers are looking to grow, expand, adding new technology, new equipment, hiring some more people if they can. And we're helping them through a number of programs, including programs like the Eastern Ontario Development Fund to support that, the Canadian Agricultural Partnership is in play for some of our companies. Also, this Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters has their technology assessment program, which can fund up to 100% of assessment of how do you apply technology to your operations when you can't find people to do the work. So maybe we could have technology do that. So there's some funding that a lot of our companies are looking at to support that. And then our Elevate Plus program, as I mentioned, has dollars, and we're supporting a number of Belleville manufacturers with 100% of their training costs to upgrade the skills of their existing people. So to improve the performance of those companies, they need to upgrade the skills, and we have dollars to support them in doing that. So that's moving ahead quite nicely. I mentioned the Proudly Made in Bay of Quinney program, where we celebrate all the great things made here, the people, the products, and their processes, and the companies. So we're going to have some funding to roll that out even further. We also, as part of that, working with ITS Transportation, major transportation company, we just updated the logo for Proudly Made in Quinney, and they're having a Proudly Shipped from the Bay of Quinney logo on the back of 750 of their trucks. So as they go into all the industrial parks and industrial areas across Ontario, Canada, and North America, we'll have our Bay of Quinney brand out there to raise some awareness about, hey, these are all from a region, and that transportation logistics sector is a big part of our local economy. So ITS was glad to partner with us on that one as well. And of course, as I mentioned, we're going to have some dollars to promote manufacturing jobs through Proudly Made in Bay of Quinney. We also do a series of profiles of companies, and we always say the best way to sell your region is talk about the companies that are here and doing it successfully already. We just completed a story that you'll find on our blog about Cpk Interiors. So I know Councillor Williams, you had a chance to attend that with one of our QDC meetings, probably about maybe 18 months ago. And Cpk Interiors is located in Corbyville, and they're owned by FCA, so Fiat Chrysler, and they make automotive interiors. And they have about 20 people working there, and very highly skilled. There's a lot of PhDs, engineers, technicians in there. They actually created a plastic, and they do the plastics for automotive interiors. So picture your dashboard of a vehicle that kind of looks like leather, but it's not. They do that type of thing. But they worked with Western University, created a plastic that's antiviral, and so now they are able to do plastics that don't support or that COVID-19 won't live on, so it dies within an hour. So they see some huge opportunities there going forward, not just for COVID-19, but any virus. And think about your automotive interiors for any kind of public transportation, ride sharing, all that type of thing, plus lots of different applications where they could have that blended package they could add to other plastics where you don't want a virus to survive on. So a really cool company right here in Belleville doing amazing work. And that's kind of the best part of my day, is when I get to talk to companies, and when COVID's not on, actually go and tour them and see all the great things that are happening in the region and in Belleville. And the other company that we're doing a story on that's going to come out in the next few days is Safe Start. So as you know, they built a new building in the industrial park, the Northeast Industrial Park, several years ago, and they do safety training all around the world, across North America, and kind of a hidden gem in our backyard. So we want to really celebrate the great work that they do, and we're doing a story about them. So again, just a way of promoting the region by celebrating those companies that are doing great work in the region. At noon today, we have a meeting of the Quinney Technology Association, and we're providing the administrative support for that organization. So they're getting together. So a lot of the tech companies are meeting to talk about what they're up to. And then later today, we have the Ontario East Economic Development Commission board meeting. I'm the president of Ontario East for the next this year and probably next year too. So lots of things that we're working on from an Eastern Ontario perspective, including they have a number of programs around workforce development, and they're doing a lot of work to raise awareness about careers in Eastern Ontario. And they have some neat tools that they allow our industry to access to help advertise and promote their jobs too. So another kind of piece of the puzzle on that workforce development piece. It's not an easy solution, but there's lots of great initiatives out there. So that's an update from QEDC. We're just finalizing our year-end report, so we'll have that. You'll get a list of all the things we did and all the things I didn't have a chance to talk to you about during our meetings. But we'll make sure that Karen and Alicia get a copy, and they're distributed to all the members. So thanks from QEDC. Appreciate the support from everyone, and hope everyone has a great holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Next, any questions? Sorry, first of all, Mr. King. Okay, seeing none. So we're going to go to Mary Jo, if you can update us on downtown.
Well, we're in full swing of Enchanted, which is our holiday themed event. It's going well overall. Our pedestrian counts are up in November from October, and we're seeing elevated traffic on Thursday, Friday nights, as well as Saturdays, which is where we concentrate the bulk of our marketing dollars. And we've also seen an increase in Sundays as we lead into Christmas. We do have a number of stores that open as of December 1st on Sunday, but it's certainly not the majority, but definitely people are down here looking around. The pedicabs have been a huge hit. We've had to tighten up the bookings so that more people could enjoy them. And every time we put new opportunities online, they're gone within minutes. Even when we had a rainy evening, everybody showed up except for 2. So it's been fun to watch that. Of course, we got, am I allowed to say this? Maybe not. Okay. I'll just wait. It's coming out tonight anyway. We are working with the city on a second Reconnect funding grant that I'm pretty excited about, and that's for the themed season of Savor the Chill and Quinnalicious. And our DMS squad team, they have secured 40 approved grants as of last night. I checked the most recent stats. That's over 100,000 of digital marketing dollars towards downtown district experience through our members. And our members are really starting to, I don't know, like be lively about digital, which is new for us. There's a total of 16 more businesses in the hopper at various stages in the program. And we had our first Belleville business to participate in the Future Proof program. And it's Emma Travis, who's one of our members from Be Prepared. We're aiming to get at least 5 people in the downtown on that program. It's a really cool free program that's offered through DMS. And finally, incoming and outgoing members, we haven't had anyone leave us this past month, but we have 3 new businesses on the main street. County Boys Renos is at the old Gold Exchange. We have a Quinney Elite Dance Team has moved into 377 Front Street. And we have a new photographer, Christopher Gentile, at 265 Front. If anyone needs food photography, he's probably one of the best in Canada. And he's a county boy, but he's moved from Toronto. And our average pedestrian counts right now are about 5,000 weekly, so we're doing okay.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at all? Okay, Mr. Stevenson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And congrats to the downtown. We should be freaking out about that much money being put into digital. That's amazing. Way to go. I do have one complaint, though. I can't book a pedicab to save my life. So quickly on our side, if you had a chance to take a look at my update, we did our first ever Banquet marketing grant. And so this is something that we had approved on the budget for $30,000, but we got such an awesome response from businesses that we actually had the board up it to $55,000. And so we're supporting over 20 businesses with marketing grants to hopefully help them get through this winter. Some super exciting stuff. And actually the city's going to jump in and take the lead on a few because they're product development related. A cycling map, documentary about what we can be doing in the region for snowbirds who are going to be stuck here. Those poor snowbirds. So some real exciting stuff starting to come out there. Also, we were approached by an organization called Out Adventures, and they've been hired by the federal government and given funding to do LGBTQ+ tourism strategies with destinations across the country. We're lucky enough to be one of those destinations. So they've recently worked with Kingston. They've worked with Prince Edward County. They're going to work with us coming up next. And we've got a call actually in the next couple of days to kick that off with a group of stakeholders to start building out this strategy. And what's going to come from it is a set of recommendations on how we can make our community and our region in this city more friendly to the LGBTQ+ tourism community, who, as it turns out, are big spenders. On another side of things, approached by a group that are trying to put together a Southeastern Ontario Film Fund pitch. So they've actually been communicating with MPPs all across Southeastern Ontario over the last couple of months, especially with Todd Smith's office. And what they're aiming to do is pitch the government, similar to what Northern Ontario did a couple of decades ago, to expand the film activity and film community in Southeastern Ontario. So hopefully more info to come on that. And then just quickly, before I let you go, you know, the holidays are coming up and you probably recognize this catchphrase, you'll find it all at Quinte Mall. And now you'll find Bay of Quinte merch. We got a little merch kiosk down there. So if you're looking for something for the person you don't know what to buy, or you need some smaller accoutrement to put under the tree, go down there. We got shirts, we got toques, we got onesies, we got wrapping paper, cards, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you'll have a chance to go down and check it out. Thank you very much.
Okay, and have you modeled that onesie yet, Doug? I haven't seen that yet.
You know what? I fit it on 1 foot, but it was just didn't feel like it was going to sell it, you know?
Oh. Everyone on your list. Mr. Boyce, you had a question?
Oh, that gives me scary thoughts. Doug, you woke me up there about, I want to hear more about the cycling map. I know in 2012, the city worked on a trails map and it was very successful, and we distributed quite a few of them. Let me hear about the cycling map. Will you be incorporating, will it be as detailed as to talk about in Belleville, the various new trails that council over the years has made, as well as around the county and things? And I just want to hear more about it, because that was something I was going to bring up at new business when we talked about a number of people have approached me and asked me what's the city doing in terms of updated trail and cycling map, and so I was going to bring it up, but let's hear what you're doing with it.
Sure, and to be fair, it's actually not us. So the marketing grants were open to any business in the region to apply for money, and so it was actually the break room that applied to develop a cycling map, and so you can bet it's in good hands. And so we're working pretty closely with the city on that as well. And essentially what's going to happen is they've asked for us to begin discussions in early January. And so when we do that, what we're going to do, Edge, is just get a sense of what they're thinking. But I think probably what I know we're going to be suggesting, and I can bet city staff are thinking along these lines too, is we're going to want to get a stakeholder group together. And, you know, people like you who come at it from the cycling world, but also with that council background, knowledge of the city would be a huge asset to that group. So yeah, more to come on that. And I think what we want to do is develop something, you know, that works for the city, but also works for the region. And to your point, shows off a lot of these assets that, you know, cold hard cash have gone into develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a lot of local, when I take a lot of local individuals on bike rides, and you know, I'm taking them through our local trail system that continues thanks to this council in developing them. And you know, they've never been on them, or they didn't know it existed, this particular trail, and they're certainly not only an asset for the many visitors we get, but for our locals that want to get out and enjoy them too. And I'd certainly welcome being on that committee, and I'm glad to see that the break room has taken the initiative.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll be in touch.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Labadie, did you have anything else to add to your presentation at all?
Just two very quick ones, Mr. Chair. You'll see in the chat, I did put a website in there. When I referenced to the Edge Factor LMI Community Hub that we are involved with, just further to Chris King's comments of what Ontario Economic Development Commission is working on career pathways. This website, it is actually through funding through Ontario's Economic Development Commission. Ourselves and the Peterborough Board both have these sites, and it is part of that career pathway funding. The only piece is that this morning I released the 2020 survey on business conditions, It went out to our list and it's on our website, so you can see it right in the notification bar on the very first page when you go in, or you can drop me an email if you want me to send you a copy.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's in the chat. And if anyone else, maybe an email to Karen would be great too, Mr. Laverty, and then she can send it out to the group.
Yeah, I do have that already and I can send it on to the group for sure.
Okay, great. And just a reminder to the outside groups as well, if we can just get a one pager, I know Quinney sent one this week, allows everyone to read it prior to the meeting with the agendas. And then if there's any extra questions, people can be prepared for that. But yes, that seems to be going pretty great. Okay, well, we're getting set to have a good Christmas present from the group and finish this meeting early today. We have meeting schedule minutes attached. And so what we can do is, Karen, I think you have we sent out all the meetings at once through iCalendar and that, or how did we send that out last year? Is that something we can do?
Yeah, so normally what we would do is once the committee has approved of the meeting dates and times, then we will send out calendar bookings. We will continue to do the meetings via Zoom until sort of the restrictions are lifted and we can actually gather together. So the listing that I've attached to the agenda is proposed. So these are the dates proposed for 2021, assuming a 10:30 a.m. start, as we've done today. But certainly those dates and times are open for discussion.
Okay, so I think the easiest way, if there's any dates that don't work, email Karen. And if she has a point where she has many of them, then we can change them off. I know that there's been some meeting conflicts this year. We want to make sure we eliminate those, but it's probably best to send those notes to Karen. Okay, anything for new business today? Seeing none, next meeting, January 28th. Everyone have a Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. A lot of great work this year. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Bye. Merry Christmas.